and I'm telling you that you need school. Or maybe you do, but it's just, this is the way I kind of accidentally ended up in animation, and it's like another way of doing things, and maybe this will inspire you a little bit to think of different ways how you can make films, or, yeah. And Draško will maybe support me here and there, maybe more towards the end. So, before I ended up in animation, I was a painter, and this was my lifelong dream since I was 3 years old, so I thought that I will forever be a painter. I was doing things like that, and it was... To draw storyboards, you have to draw really well. And maybe it's true in some types of places, but like a hint for any of you who, if you don't know how to draw, you can work as a storyboard artist in an advertising agency. Because in advertising, it's better that you don't know how to draw. Because, for example, like often I had to redraw storyboards from other people who had drawn it too well, because as we all know, clients can be very stupid. And then sometimes it would happen that, you know, they would present an idea to the client, and everything was drawn so well that the clients would say, yeah, we like the idea, but we don't like this guy, you know, like this, I think that the main guy should be blonde or something, because, you know, things were too realistic. So I took this job because I really needed money. Otherwise, at this point in my career, I really hated drawing, because to me, painting and drawing were two completely different things. But after 1 year of doing these silly drawings, I started to think that it's maybe not so bad. It's kind of fun. And I still had a creative crisis as a painter. So one day in the agency, they gave us like a little assignment, because we had this, how do you call it, team building event. Where basically it's like for 2 days you go to the countryside and you get drunk. And, but they were thinking like, okay, maybe we should make the people to do also something useful. So they told us to divide in teams and make a little film. It's supposed to be something stupid with a home camera, you know. But I am very ambitious, and I thought like, oh, maybe it's a competition and I want to win. So I decided not to divide myself into a team, but to just be one person and make an animated film, because I thought that way I will win for sure. Because animation had been something that had been interested me. I had no idea how to do it, but I was just like, I don't know, I will try. So this is the only film which I think I'm like, okay, one of the few that I'm going to show you the whole thing. It's not that long. It's really bad. This one is not on internet, and that's why maybe you should see it.
Ma tantsus leian kaitset kurjale vastu seisan, kui jõud on otsas, tantsin loojan kuve. Ma suurel reisil värvid muusika kõikjal leian, jääb sellest tantsust maha sätendust veel. Ma tantsin, tantsin, tantsin ja õnnest naeran nutan, kui sellelt reisilt võtan nii suure rõõmu maa. Siis tantsin, aina tantsin, mis targemat võiks teha, kui minna jälle näha, mis leian sõõre silmas maailmu ees nõnda kiirelt möödub. Ma tean, et siin saan olla vaid hetke, mis tingitud, ja et mul aega on vähe, rutta ma pean, siis võtan maailma ainult kui üllatus. Tants annab kiiruse näha, kingitus seal, kus teised mööduvad, näha ei soovigi. Kui ükskord siin ilmas kahjuks lõpeb mu aeg, siis astun tundmata öösse tagasi.
È un macaco senza storia, dice lei di lui. Che gli manca la memoria in fondo ai guanti bui. Ma il suo sguardo è una veranda. Tempo al tempo e lo vedrai che si addentra nella giungla, no, non incontrarlo mai. Da da da, da da da, da 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 da. Ho guardato in fondo al gioco, tutto qui, ma sai.
Ja et mul aega on vähe, rutta ma pean, siis võtan maailma ainult kui üllatust. Kants annab kiiruse näha kingitus seal, kus teised mööduvad.
So this is, as you can see, it's very limited. I made this in less than a week during work hours at work. And I didn't use a light table. I just draw whatever I could see through the normal copy paper, which I also took from work. And like the parts with the dancing, I rotoscoped. I just went to YouTube and I printed out like some videos just like by pushing play and pause and screenshot and play and pause and screenshot. And yeah, also like putting it together in like Final Cut. I think I didn't know what is frame rate. I think it's like maybe 4 frames per second. I was just like discovering things as they went. But you know, it's like quite a long film to make in like 1 week. So it was a fun experience. I discovered from that okay, like I mean, it looks stupid and stuff, but you can make films on your own in like with limited resources. And during that team building event, it turned out that it was not a competition, so nobody won. That was a little bit disappointing, but my coworkers were a little bit impressed because they didn't expect anyone to go that far. So this inspired my my boss as my creative director to, well, they saw that, okay, like there is this one girl here who can make animation. So like they suggested for me that there is one client, beer client, that maybe I could do something for them, you know, for the internet. So, and I also discovered during the making of this clip that, okay, this rotoscoping is boring, but birds, you know, they're easy to draw. They're just circles and their legs, you know, they don't move that much. So maybe I can draw birds. So I will show you a few clips which I made for this beer company. in the end, the beer company never used them because they said it's too artsy. But still, for me, this was a cool experience because I started to see that, oh yeah, I can do animation, and it was fun. And you know, as a painter, I still had that crisis, and I was also putting these things on the internet, and then like I got like a lot of comments from people around me that they like it more than my paintings, which made me very angry. But then I thought, yeah, okay, why not? And around that time, I was drinking a lot, and then I met this guy who was a director, and he told me that there are these things called festivals, that if you make a film and you send it to a festival, and then the festival might select it, and then they pay for you to go to that festival and to drink with other animators. And I was thinking, what? Okay, that sounds cool. Especially, you know, as a painter, the world is, you know, totally different. You're paying for everything. No one invites you anywhere, and if they are, then you pay for it, and it's different. So then I thought, okay, maybe I should make like a real film, and with birds, because I realized I can draw birds. And for this next film, I even built a light table, because I thought like, maybe I should do things more better. I will just show you a little excerpt.
Kuldnakk on väga seltsiv ja uudishimulik lind. Kuku, 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 kuku.
Ai jaa.
Kuldnaka elu looduses on raske.
So this film, it's 6.5 minutes. I did it in 1 month, but this time I really had to work almost all day. And I had no money. I mean, I didn't even consider that anyone would ever give me money. So I asked, there was, for example, this one friend. I made him pancakes, and he made music for the film. And then I put my best friend, the female voice, like she did the voiceover. And that was it. I think the budget for the film was like 20 euros, basically, which I spent on pencils, because everything else, the paper I stole from work, you know, it was a big advertising agency. I was just like, who cares, you know? It's like, and I draw even now on A5 printing paper. It's basically like the normal printing paper. I just cut it in half. And the thing is that because it's so small, the paper, it actually makes animating really fast, because you cannot go too much into detail. Like your hand barely moves, you know. And also for the same reason, I don't need to use pegs, you know, because the paper is so small and it just holds itself together, and it's fast. Yeah, the only thing that costed money was pencils, and it's always Faber-Castell 6B. That's the best one. And this is my setup. Like I would just shoot with a digital camera, and then later put it in Premiere or something together. And yeah, this film was. So this was my first film, so to say, you know. And I started to sending it to festivals, and I mean, of course, it didn't get to Annecy or the big festivals, but it got to like a lot of the smaller and medium-sized festivals, and I got to travel a lot, and I started to think like, yeah, like. Actually, making films is not so bad, maybe. It's like, so I was like making, this film was all about birds, and I was thinking like, it's in Estonia there is this, I think in every country there is this ornithological societies that maybe I could somehow like work together with them. And and I was like looking into them, and they have this program called the Bird of the Year, and every year they would like say that this one is the bird of the year and then like promote it. And I was thinking like, if I would know what's the bird of the year for next year, like I would make a film about that and then they would have to work with me or something. And then like 2 weeks later, they announced what's the bird of the year, and the film which I had made before, the one which I showed you with these starlings, is called The Great Grey Shrike. And they just announced that the bird of the year for next year is the Great Grey Shrike. You know, what a coincidence. And then I was like, okay, now I have to write to them. And I was like, hey, I made this film, like oops. And they were like, oh, what an interesting idea. We never considered that we could also like use animation to promote birds. And then they were like, do you want money? Like, can you make more things? So it's like another hint for you, like if you're like young and you're looking for clients, just try to think like who might need you. And I will show you a few clips which I did for them. I will skip one because we don't have much time, but this one. So this was also my first film that got selected to Annecy. And the thing with ornithological films, like another hint for you, is that there are nature film festivals, and it's easy to get into them if you make animation because they don't have so much animation and they usually have programs for children and so on. But the coolest thing about nature film festivals is that they have a lot of awards. Like, there was one festival in Japan, like they gave me an award for best children's film or something. But I knew that they also have award for best animation, so I was wondering who got that. So I went on their website to check, and then I realized that they had 35 awards for 35 films. So every film that was selected got an award. Like, I mean, I can imagine this job of coming up with like, what will we call the award for this film? But you know, like when you put it on Facebook, like nobody knows that it was 35 awards, you know. So it's a good hint, you know, for your CV, you know, like to have awards. And so yeah, during that time I was like traveling more and more on festivals, and this is also my hint for you that socializing is super important. Like you should go to every festival you can and drink with everybody you can, because it can lead you to unexpected places. And already at this time, I started, for example, being invited to juries, even though I hadn't made any film that won some important award, or even in general, I didn't win so many awards. But I was just very social, and I was drinking with everyone, and they were like, "Yeah, like Kint is like she's fun. We can invite her to be in the jury." So yeah, even though it sounds almost like some sort of cliche, I think it's really important to socialize and stuff. And another hint is like, you know, like when you make films, I mean, especially when you go to school and you make this like big films, everybody is like telling you that, you should not put your films online and you should, you know, have premiere in big festivals. But I think it's also okay that, especially if you're making like some shorter, silly stuff, to put as much as your stuff online as you can, because that way, people can find you and they can also give you money and jobs, because they just see something on the internet and they're like, this is cool. I'm not going to show you the whole video, but for example, I made this music video. This guy, I have never met him. He just saw my stuff on Facebook and he was like, oh, cool. Can I give you money to make a music video for me? I'll just show you a little bit. Okay, you can see it on Vimeo if you want. And this was also the first one of my my videos that got a staff pick on Vimeo. So yeah, there is benefit in putting things online. And after that, I met this guy over here.
Meow.
And he told me that he's living in this place. That's him. It's like, maybe it's hard to recognize, but
it's a shorter period.
He was in an artist residency in Viborg, Denmark. If you haven't heard of it, it's a cool place to go. They basically give you free housing and a free studio. The only thing you need to pay for is your food, and you can go there and do nothing, and hang with other animators who are doing nothing. And sometimes they invite you to see them and they ask you, have you done anything? And you say, oh, sorry, not yet. And they say, no, don't worry about it. It's okay. And
we heard that they're becoming a bit more harsh these days. So just be wary.
I've heard that rumor too, yeah. When we were there, people we were together, for example, this boy in a red shirt, he had been there for 7 years. It's just like this. It used to be like some sort of Hotel California that you just come there and you never leave, like a paradise for animators. It was an amazing place. I really enjoyed being there, but I have never been so unproductive in my life. But I still recommend going to places like this because I think the people who are around you, it affects you. It affects the way you think about filmmaking and the ideas you get. So, but maybe don't stay for 7 years because it's not good to be unproductive for 7 years. But yeah. So during that time, I was fooling around doing some drawings. Actually, I had somebody wanted to make an exhibition of my drawings in Estonia, and I didn't have any drawings, so I gave myself an assignment. This is also sometimes good, tip to give yourself annoying assignments. I decided that I will do 1 drawing per day for a month, and if at the end of the month I have drawings which are okay, then I will say yes to the exhibition, otherwise no. And up until then, I had been considering myself as a bird animator. I called myself a bird animator, and then suddenly in these drawings, these animals started showing up. And then I thought maybe I can make films with animals. Yeah.
But it was also connected with that residency thing, because Kintis had to say something to them. I am working on this project.
Well, I had to produce something. I was
so
there.
She just came up with the idea, okay, let's make some musical interludes.
Yeah. So this is after 1 year of doing nothing, in 1 week or something, I did this. And it's Trashko doing the voices. So this was another film made for zero money because, I mean, I had a place to work. I could get now free paper and pencils. I didn't have to steal them. And I had all these people around me who I could ask, like, hey, you want to make free music for my film? So yeah, another benefit. But also because Trashko, he's like a natural born producer. Like he's all the time thinking about money. So he started telling me that, you know, you shouldn't make films without money. Like, what the hell? So my idea was that this clip, which you just saw, like, I wanted to make like, oh, I'll make a lot of them and I'll put them on the internet for free and I don't need money to make them. But Trashko was like, no, you have to ask money from your film fund and, you know, have a budget and things. And I was very annoyed by that advice, but I listened to it. And Trashko, do you want to say something?
Well, you know, I was in Viborg. They also organized a lot of courses, and one of the courses they organized for producing. So it was already in my head, you know, like they had teachers who were showing us how to make a budget, how to plan production, distribution, all these things. And I saw Kintis like never asked for money. It was very weird to me because they actually get quite a lot of money in Estonia for short films. But Kintis was shy, so she was not asking a lot of money. But this was still enough for us, so we can ask in Croatia also a little bit of money. So then basically that's how we started our company in Croatia, thanks to this project which got a little bit money in Estonia. And this is how we started to work films in maybe more like elaborate way. Right?
Yeah, so this next film, it's about this rat and the cat. But I think that one of the reasons why they gave me money in Estonia, like being someone who never even studied animation, was that I had already made these other films with no money and they had been going to festivals. So in a way, I had some track record. I cannot show the film because it's 11 minutes, but I will show a trailer. It's a film about relationships. And this is also the first film that we worked together, because so far, all the films you saw before, or the ones I didn't show, I never spent more than one day on a script, if even. Sometimes I didn't even make a storyboard, I would just start to animate. And that was my way of working, and I always did everything alone. It was just how I liked doing things. But since, you know, we are a couple, and he's very, you know, interested. He was very interested in what I was doing, so I was, you know, I would present to him like, I have this, you know, I'm gonna make a film with this rat and a cat, and he wanted to know what's going on, and then he was very critical, and he was like, what? This doesn't make sense. And I was like, what? Screw you. And then like a few days later, I would be like, yeah, okay, he's right, you know. And then I would like start to rewrite it, and like slowly, like this became more and more like organic. And maybe you want to say something about it.
I mean, it was really back and forth process, and when she started to make film, we also kind of edited it together, you know, because I used to work in theater, and I also am a film director, but clearly with a little bit more ambitious for a story. And then somehow this creeped into our work. So we became more ambitious in asking ourselves what are character motivations, what is the story, how do we move audience. So let's not just be silly, but let's try to tell something which people will talk about later, you know. And I think maybe we were lucky, but we succeeded with Herman, and it was really a huge success.
Yeah, it was quite painful for me in the beginning to take somebody else's advice, but yes, in the end I could see that it was worth it. And so this was like a film which got to like Anima Fest and Annecy, and it won some awards, and it was, so yeah, so I was like, yeah, okay, maybe I can take advice from other people. And yeah, also, as we mentioned, this was the first film we had like a real budget, which was also cool.
Yeah, I mean, I actually also suggested Kintis to do the same thing I did on my film, to hire like a mentor. So we hired Prit Parn, because we were both very big fans of Prit Parn and his animation work. So already on Herman, he really helped a lot, right? Like,
Yeah, I started to realize that there is some benefit in having advice from other people. And then after that, because I kept making these drawings, and so there was this fox called Manivald. Then we thought like, let's make another film now with the fox. And for this one, we were writing together from beginning, you know, because now he didn't have to kind of force his way in. We were like, okay, this works, like we can write together. And I think on both films, we spent almost half a year on the script. You know, like not every day, of course, like there would be these periods when we would both be like, okay, this sucks, I'm never doing this. And then, yeah. So I will show also a trailer for this one.
just logos.
I think this is the whole film.
Is it possible?
Yeah. Okay.
But we can show a scene, maybe.
Can I? No, but I cannot
You
scroll.
cannot show the scene, okay.
Sorry. You will have to see it on Vimeo. I'm sorry about this. But this one was very successful. It even got to Sundance. This is us in Sundance. I mean, we did actually go there, but our producer, our Canadian producer, we worked with the NFB for this one, and this woman there, she couldn't come with us to Sundance, so she decided to make this photo of us together in Sundance. And yeah, this was like a big thing, I mean, for us, because especially for me, coming from never studying, you know, never working with any like studio, doing things on my own, and then getting to work with the NFB, like that was cool.
Yeah, that was the goal. I mean, we saw potential of working with National Film Board because they were like going on festivals and they're scouting for new projects. So I realized that they already worked with few, even with Regina, they already worked, you know, they worked with few independent animators from Europe. So I just approached to producer. She seemed very friendly, and she also comes from ex-Yugoslavia. She's from Bosnia.
Basically, they were drinking together.
So we were like, we had a really common language. Immediately, we just connected. And for us, this was actually both of us, like first time working with some real studio, which have like big equipment and staff and like technicians who are helping on every step. Like we had even like what was that distribution meeting was like we were sitting in some big fancy office with I don't know 12 other people sitting around and planning all this.
We never saw again, and they never actually did anything,
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter.
It's like we were both before that had experience of this shoebox production. You know, you do everything yourself. So I think both of us learned a lot in that experience. So if anytime you feel like you're ready, I recommend going and working with such a big studio. I think it's really good. You know, you can learn a lot. You can experience how it should be, let's say, you know, and then you can probably use that knowledge in your future projects. You know.
Yeah, but the funny thing is like the comments like from some people I got after this film was, it's overproduced. Because some people got really used to the fact that my films are so punk in a way that they, you know, they look cheap and they sound cheap. I mean, this still looked cheap, but it didn't sound cheap. No. And, but yeah, after that, like, because Manivald was like this kind of very quiet film. I mean, okay, I didn't get to show the trailer, but I can tell you it talks about a fox, you know, the one we saw here on the drawings, who's 33 years old, still living at home with his mother, and then one day their washing machine breaks down, and a hot wolf, this one from the next film, a hot wolf comes to fix it, and then a love triangle develops between the mother, son, and the wolf. That was Moneywild. You can see it on my Vimeo. And, but after that, we were thinking like, what could be the next film? And I like this idea of, almost like Balzac, this Balzac universe where the characters are repeating from one film to another. For example, in Herman, you could already see Moneywild sitting in a bar, or like these characters are like somehow.
Even wolf.
Yeah, even the wolf exists in Herman. So then I was thinking like, this sexy wolf, the plumber, that he's interesting. How did he end up, sleeping with these people? Like what's... Sorry, it's not COVID. So what's his story? So then, basically this is my last film. My latest film. It's called Thomas Beneath the Valley of the Wild Wolves. It's inspired by Russ Meyer's films. I don't know if you know his films. Maybe the boys do. It's like a sexploitation from the 70s.
No, even earlier, I think, 60s.
Maybe. Yeah. But Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is 75. But okay. So I will show you some clips from this film.
Hey there, sweetheart.
Oh, hello, cowboys.
Need some help?
Where shall I put it? Where shall I put it? Where shall I put it, Antonio?
Thomas, you're next.
This is Thomas's wife, who's getting into female empowerment cult. Yeah. So this one, like, my films would get, like, our films would get more and more, how to say, towards like entertainment and more dialogue and stuff. So we've been also thinking about to make a TV series. Shall we show the trailer? I mean, is that okay? That it's like also streaming.
I don't know.
Oh, we can show it. So this has been our dream for like a long time, I don't know, 7 years or something, to make this Moneywild universe into a TV series. I mean, it's still not happening because we need a TV channel or George Harrison. If you get the hint, like George Harrison paid for Life of Brian. But a few years ago, we got some development money, to really like develop the idea of the series, and we made a little trailer. So, you can finally see a little bit of Moneywild, because Moneywild is the main character.
Who is this guy?
Hi, I'm Manifold.
Sorry, but the person you've called isn't available at the moment. Why not leave a message?
Happy birthday, Manifold. Dear Mother, I'm sorry to have left so suddenly. You must be very worried about me. Don't be.
No one ever comes here anyway.
Thomas?
Nice ass.
Where's my son?
Shall we have coffee now?
Quiet, you imbecile! Faster!
shit together. What? The concert started? Without me?
I'm sorry, Mother.
Mother.
Good night. And thank you.
Good night, Manivelt. Thomas. Sorry.
So the idea of the series is that it starts at the end of, like, the short film Manivald, where it ends, the series starts. So after Manivald discovers that the hot wolf also slept with his mother, and he's very heartbroken, so he decides to move out, and he moves into this new town together with these rabbits he saw in the car, like he just runs away. And he ends up living in an underground gay bar, which is run by this hedgehog, who is also known as Ingeborg. Some pictures. And so he's trying to kind of run away and discover who he is, because he's 33 years old and he's never, been alone, away from his mother. But as you can see from this picture, his mother is not giving up, because she wants his son back, her son back. So her son, so the mother takes her best friend, the sheep, and also the wolf, because she believes that the wolf has something to do with this, and they all go to look for Manivald, and they end up spying on him from the bushes, and she's doing her best to get Manivald to come back home, because this is insane. And and Manivald also, he has to figure out what's this relationship he has with Thomas. Is it working or not? And that's it. I mean, this was very rushed and confusing, but if you have questions, and also, as I said before, all the films are online, so you can see them there later. Oh, yes?
What do you guys use to animate? Like programs, or do you guys do it on paper?
All my films so far I've done on paper, just like I showed in the beginning, like on these A5s with a pencil. And but for the teaser, which I showed for the series, this one is done on a Cintiq. Because, so this was also part of the development, because I realized that if I ever get to really make this series, I cannot force the other animators to work on paper. So, it looks quite similar. I mean, I did some changes, like the backgrounds are not moving, because, you have to, for TV series, make some adjustments.
But also all these drawings which you were showing, like the last
these
few drawings, they were also done completely in TV Paint.
These are, yes.
So
it can look the same, but I must say that for me, it's actually faster to draw on paper. Maybe, I mean, one of the reasons is that you cannot fix so many things, you cannot zoom in, and it's because I draw on such small papers, it goes very fast. But of course, it is maybe more comfortable with TV Paint, because you can erase, and because if I make a mistake on paper, I just have to start over and take a new paper, because if I erase with an eraser, it's like, it fucks everything up. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah.
Is the coloring also analog, or is it done afterwards in post?
Yeah, the coloring is not analog. Yeah, that would take too much time. It's Photoshop. I mean, originally it was Photoshop. Now, if I use TV Paint, I do everything in TV Paint. But yeah, I did one film with where I colored with a pen, and it was so time-consuming that I never wanted to do it again. Actually, my whole style is kind of based on me being very lazy. So, like the films, for example, in my films, there isn't so much action or movement. A lot of it is like you see a face, just like looking into the distance, and it's just 6 drawings looping over and over again, but it makes you feel that it's like it's real, because usually also the backgrounds would move, and you kind of, what's that word, you project what the meaning could be in it. So you can do a lot of things by being lazy. Yeah.
Are you only right now working on the series, and are you trying to pitch it to networks, or what are you currently working on?
Yeah, we finished the development, so we have like a pitch Bible and everything, but this pitching to networks is like, it's a long process. And
I mean, we don't gonna pitch ourselves. We hired a representative in Canada who will do pitching to Hollywood studios, because that kind of adult TV show, they don't produce these kind of things in Europe. I mean, they make them, but the broadcaster is normally coming from US, and then maybe it would like come in some European TV after it's done, right? So we have to persuade one of the big studios, like it's either Netflix or HBO or Amazon or, you know, like usual stuff. But we don't have contacts for that, so that's why we have a representative. And then, you know, they're gonna try to do the pitching in a very short period, and we're gonna see how it's gonna be. But we are not waiting for that. Because while this is going to be a long process, we started to work on a feature film with the same characters.
Yeah, it's the main character is Manival's mother, Saima, and this is now we're going to the past, just before Manival is born. But yeah, this is still early, like we are still writing it. But you know, after spending 2 years of writing. We wrote all the treatments for this TV series episode. It's like 10 episodes, 25 minutes. So after all this writing, it felt like, okay, like kind of getting used to this long format. So why not challenge ourselves with a feature? Yeah.
Is the frame rate 24 or?
It's 12. Yeah. I mean, like 12 drawings per second, but. Well, my biggest inspiration is Aki Kaurismägi. Do you guys know him? Wait, I have like another presentation. No, I have a video. I will show you like a little clip, because I think Aki Kaurismägi is like the coolest filmmaker. I'll just open this. Sorry. Sorry.
Saat sanoa minun sanoneen, että täältä et enää leipääsi revi. Turha sinun on tänne jäädä peukaloita pyörittelemään ja nurkkiin kuseksi. Siitä ei tule lasta eikä paskaa. Juot vaan itsesi pilalla ja turhaudut. Tuossa on autoavaimet. Saat sen minulta perintöä, kun olet aina pitänyt siitä enemmän kuin muut. Eikä niistä muista mihinkään ole. Jos ne eivät jää tänne kitumaan, ne masentuvat etelässä ja hyrttävät itsensä. Ja sen minä vielä sanon, ettei tämä touhu minua enää huvita. Mutta ei minusta sitten tarvitse mallia ottaa. Paskamaista on tämäkin.
Rakas kuitenkin, ja siksi sen mä talletaan. Lupaukset pettävät, tiedänhän sen. Välittänyt en, olin onnellinen. Muistoasi säilytän vuosien taas. Iltahetkeni se kauan.
I really recommend checking his stuff, because I really like his directing. It's like everything is melodramatic, but nothing is ever overacted. Everything is very, you know, like things happen, but, you know, like this guy just killed himself, but nobody goes like, oh my God, what happened? They're just like, yeah, you know. It's a special kind of, you know, this kind of Nordic humor. It's, I don't know, I think everybody should check his films. And besides that, I mean, Almodovar, of course, and who else?
No, but I mean, our writing is also inspired by ourselves, you know, of course, and our friends and family, and, you know, like you look things around yourself and you react to it. Because we like to write this human comedy. That's why we are always kind of pointing out a connection with Balzac. Like we try to chronic what's happening around us. That's why we also have like a character who is gay, but we don't put that as a big issue, you know, he's just gay and that's it, you know. And so we want to build that kind of world which is around us and try to kind of find a little bit dark humor in that world, you know. But eventually it's always about relationships. Like I think mostly good stories are always some form of relationship. You try to talk about human relationships.
But yeah, in animation, Priit Pärn, if you haven't checked his stuff, you should.
Yeah.
Also.
Don't be shy.
They're animators, they're shy by nature.
Oh yeah?
But actually, maybe Cindy, you could talk more about some other animators which you would find relevant to both your work.
Mark and Emma, definitely. You know, so she, you know, Emma, she's jury member here. She was huge inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, the Magnificent Cake is like, I think,
so one of the best films we ever saw.
Yeah, and it's also that kind of humor that we appreciate. Yeah. It's dark and sinister and not overacted.
And we've been, we were very lucky to, when we travel around festivals, we met this crowd of amazing new talent, like some of them coming from Hungary, which is very big inspiration. You know,
Luca Toth.
Yeah, Luca Toth or Nadia Andres. You know, so there are these really strong authors, female authors coming from Hungary, big inspiration. And I would say like Michael Fry, you know, from Switzerland, maybe you heard about him. And also there's some like really good digital artists which influence us, like Nikita Diacour and David O'Reilly, you know, so these are the names which are now kind of like big names in festivals, and of course we really love their work. And there is also like Atushi Wada from Japan and Sarina Nihei. So they're this, let's say, younger generation, which we try to, we hang with them and we are very inspired by them, of course. You know. And then from maybe older generation, we really like to see this, what's this Dutch director who now lives in France. You know, we really love his work. The older guy.
What do you mean, Paul? No.
Paul Driessen.
I see Dutch, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Paul Driessen, you know, it's like, but these are classics, you know, like they're always very inspiring. Yeah. So I don't know, what do you guys like?
It's just because I'm a teacher to most of these days. I'm getting some little hints of Don Hertzfeldt's early films.
Yeah, maybe. But you know, Don Hertzfeldt, you know, I mean, yeah, he's his own thing, and we love Don Hertzfeldt, right? But it's somehow, you know, like maybe we are more inspired. I mean, it sounds weird, but we are more inspired by contemporary television. You know, like we really like where television is going, like and live action stuff. You know, like like. Actually,
one of my like big inspirations, or I don't, Horace and Pete.
Yes,
you've seen it from Louis C.K. I mean, this is like a
I mean, Louis C.K. was also really big inspiration.
Yeah, if you
like
forget about for a moment, you know, that he's a jerk and all of that, but but the series is amazing.
Yeah.
Horace and Pete, watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, for example, now we are writing a new script, and we reached for Bergman, you know, we like, because the new script is about crisis.
It's a midlife crisis.
It's
yeah.
and like we have even like fake subtitle, pictures from the midlife crisis, you know, but it's of course inspired by pictures from a marriage from Bergman.
Yeah. I like to say it's like pictures from a marriage meets women on the verge of mental breakdown from Almodovar.
Yeah. So it's more like in writing we're like still more inspired by live action, because in live action there are so many stories, and we don't really see so much good stuff, unfortunately, for adults, Besides, I mean, there are some things like BoJack Horseman, but most of the adult stuff, unfortunately, is still just tits, violence, or some manga stuff, like almost like it's for adults, but it's actually for teenagers. And it's kind of annoying because I feel like that there is a lot of audience there who would like to watch something which is not just action, comic-based, or a lot of sex and violence. And I think they would be audience for that. So it's yeah.
They're so shy.
That's good.
Well, thank you for torturing yourself. And, you can.
I hope we're going to see you on some festivals.
We even have some nominees here.
Oh, do? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nominees and installations, so you'll see a lot of the girls. Actually,
Okay.
that's interesting. It's been mainly girls nowadays in animation.
Yeah, I mean, Luca Tot once said it was very interesting how she, when they were asking how come so many women, and then she was sometimes working even in live action, and then she realized that in live action you have to be very physically strong because it's like physically demanding work. You have to show up and there is a big set and you have to have authority, like strong voice. And as animator you can just sit quietly behind your computer or do with your puppets, and you can make miracles for a big screen, and not have to be physically strong. So maybe that's why more and more women are doing animated films.
Yeah, we've experienced that change over the past year.
Yeah.
Leonor is actually from an all-female class, which was the first time ever.
That's so great.
It was a very interesting experience.
Last chance. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm more of a music guy, not so much animation, so I want to ask a question about this. The soundtrack is a very important part of the film. Do you make it only afterwards or while you are drawing as well?
It's both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a musician myself, so we are lucky in that sense that I can immediately, try to experiment. And I even wrote one song for Thomas, but we hired really good composer from UK.
But yeah, basically we would do like this, that when we're doing an animatic, we already put something in it.
Yeah.
It's either like he improvises something, or for example, before I met him, I would put something from the internet that sounds like something like
Similar,
I want.
yeah.
And then at some point when I feel like it's ready now, I would give it to the person who's going to do the music, and then this will be like a reference for them, and maybe they will totally scrap it, maybe not.
But we try to work in a sense almost like in theater. I mean, I don't know, maybe because I come from theater, so that's why I think, so almost like co-repetitor, So you have your composer at least write something on piano, and I would ask early so he can deliver us some cues while we are still in animatic. So then we can be inspired by that melody or mood, helps a lot, But in some productions, of course, this is the last step. But I think I would always prefer to have little musical cues. Start to work with your composer early. And also one thing I also always recommend to young directors, start work with your editor early. Trust your editor. I know that we love to edit our stuff, but people who are specialized editors, who are specialized in cutting, they can give you some perspective, like a dramaturgical thing which you maybe don't see because you're too much into that idea, and they are the ones who have to help you to deliver the final copy of the film. So it's very important. It's collaborative work. I mean, it can be also, solo work, but I think from my experience, it's always stronger if you have a team, and you can share, like playing music, you know, like you can have a little group of musicians, or you can do things alone. I think it's always better if you have somebody which you can bounce idea with, right? So.
But in general, it's good to show your film in early stages to other people.
To get feedback.
And sometimes there can be very unexpected moments which you didn't think about. For example, with Moneyvald, the film was basically ready. We were 1 week away from flying to Canada to record the voices and the final music, and then we showed it to somebody who didn't know anything about these characters, because the problem was before, like a lot of people had seen the pictures which I had made for the internet, the little comics, so they knew who the character was. But only when we showed it to somebody who didn't know anything about it, we realized that they couldn't tell that Moneyvald and his mother are mother and son.
Yes.
Because these are like animals, so it's like you cannot see the age or anything.
They thought they're a couple who lives together, and that's of course changes the story completely. You know? Like, so we had to add in last minute. We had to come up with the beginning of the film. Like there is a dream sequence. Moneyvald is dreaming, and he's calling for his mother, and then mother comes in the room, wakes him up. Without that scene, we would risk that a lot of audience would just not understand the relationship, and we didn't know that. We made almost the whole film believing everything is clear, So
yeah.
What do you draw animals instead of real people?
Well, originally I started doing it because I'm lazy and they're easier to draw. But I think that there is an extra benefit in the fact that it makes them more relatable, because we can all like identify with some animal, but when you make a person, it's more concrete, So especially like, okay, Moneyvald and this, now it gets more and more specific, but the first film I made with animals, like the rat and a cat in a relationship, like when you see them as animals, you cannot even tell the gender, actually. It can be anything. So it makes it very universal, which I think is good for telling stories.
But it's also, it's really old technique. Since Aesop, like they tell these little moral stories with animals, so people would not be obscured by, is this that guy or that woman? They try to kind of think of stories in a more abstract level, and in like current times it's more usual for children these days, right? But I think there can be plenty of stories for adults told with animals. I mean characters are becoming almost like wearing a mask, right? It's like there is also in theater, you can put a clown nose, and then you become like, basically this mask is helping you that you can become whatever you want, right? In that sense, this is almost like metaphorical use of animals, but they're actually people, right?
And plus it also removes the whole race issue.
Exactly. So people are not so much biased, or you can actually play with the bias, like they did, it's children film Zootopia, but I like the part when they actually play with this bias, that there are people, like animals who are like carnivores and they're not. So you can kind of tell a story in a more considerate way about bias, right? Because talking about bias and without using bias, it's very difficult, right? But talking about bias is a very important topic.
I'm sorry, a note. I got it from an interview with Majan Satrapi about Persepolis, why she chose black and white and why she chose animation.
Exactly, yeah.
And she said something like, of course, the abstraction of the drawing made it a universal film and not just a film about some brown people somewhere. And that was kind of her way of distancing the subject of Iran and making it the subject for everyone. So I think animals work even better because they have more of a level of abstraction.
And Spiegelman did with the mouse, and it's heavy story about Auschwitz, but he made characters as mouses and dogs and pigs and stuff. It immediately tells some more universal story.
Yeah.
Like animating as technique or as director, directing films? Both. Yeah.
Well, I think, like as we said before, that it's important to show to people. I think you should, like when you start, you come up with an idea, you should pitch it to as many people as you can, even though it might seem like maybe you're ashamed or scared, but because you can get so many good ideas and you will understand what works and where people get lost. Because, I mean, the story is the most important part. This animating is, it doesn't matter how you do it. Because
yeah,
if the story works,
animation is basically a skill, everybody can learn how to animate or draw, it's a skill. So it really depends how much time do you put. And it's as with every skill, you can work all your life and keep improving, right? So it's like, it's not the goal to get there fast. And it really depends what you want to do. If you want to get hired in Disney or you want to do indie films and get awards on festivals.
Yeah,
right?
And in that sense, my advice, also from my own life, is that just when you start, just make like a lot of stupid things, like make a lot of short, stupid films. Like I said before that in the beginning, I never spent more than one day on a script. There are other people who maybe they go to school and they spend like a whole year or sometimes even many years coming up with the perfect story. But I think that you learn more from making mistakes, It's just get it over with, just make a lot of bad things and you will learn something and eventually they become good. But at the same time, you should also maybe as much as you can get feedback because the idea is like not to keep making bad things.
Yeah, the Brian Eno was saying recently in one interview, so the hardest is to finish. Everybody has tons of ideas, and then some people maybe put extra time, and then they start something, but then they got stuck with finishing. So maybe that could be a good way. Like once I did a challenge, and I did in 1 month. I decided to every day publish like 20-second clip, which I did that day, and not all of them were good, but I decided, okay, I have to finish this 20 seconds, and that can be actually a very fast way to improve. And today, technology, like you're using Instagram, it's very easy to reach audience and get some feedback from that. But if you force yourself that every time you finish the stuff and you do it quickly, then you can get quickly to some sort of very unique, like a voice. And if that's your goal, right? But if you want to be a really good technician, then approach is a bit different, of course. Then you have to see where do you want to work, what is your career. I think both ways are good for that.
Yeah, in the end, it's all about this. What was it, 10,000 hours or what?
Yeah, and also what gives you joy, because it's like if something doesn't give you joy, maybe better don't do it, and you listen, your heart, your body, it will tell you, okay, this sucks, then don't do it. That's, I think, the best. You're your best judge, right?
Yes?
What do you think was the biggest challenge working in a big structure like in a film?
Well, luckily, the only thing which we did with them was sound and music, because animation I did all by myself, but it was a bit challenge that they are so big and so old, so everything is super slow, and like Trashko said before, that we had a meeting with this advertising or marketing department, 12 people on the table, and I was like, wow, what's going to happen? But in the end, nothing happened. It's just like a lot of like they're, like it's almost like a government institution. They're like they're showing up, but not really doing anything.
You have a feeling that it's like a big bureaucracy, and I imagine that this is how it in big studios, also in Hollywood, is the same. Like you have like a big hierarchy, and then you have people who, like, very big part of their job is to try to not overstep over other colleagues, so there is a lot of politics, a lot of things which you shouldn't say, like especially when you show in some meeting and then there is executives, they prepare you, don't say this, don't say, because it feels like that they're all maybe a little bit afraid of losing their job, So what I admire with the indie studio, It can be even a big studio, like we work now with Miu Productions in France, but they're private company and they're like, this kind of pioneers. They're like, more, tough and they, and this kind of government institution where politicians are putting head of, that studio, and then he is picking his collaborators, and like this is a challenge, and I know because it's like in my country, in Zagreb, we have a similar, it's much smaller, it's called Zagreb Film, but it's a similar problem, you have people who are basically on a public salary, and for them that's good enough, they're getting salary, so they're not so much eager to, to succeed, because for them they will get salary no matter what, right? And that's kind of little bit feeling but still in Canada they're all really good professionals, I must say, and that's a benefit. That's a benefit when you work with a guy who was mixing films for 30 years, and then you sit in cinema and he knows exactly what he's doing because he's doing this 30 years. And that's something which you cannot, really hard to find in Europe. Like even this Norman Ležek, he now lives in Portugal, but he was teaching these people, and you can feel this tradition, like generation after generation of people who know how to make sound for animation.
There was another question there. Well, at some point, I lived in Croatia for 8 years. I've been away from Estonia for 10 years. And at some point, I brought my oil colors there with the idea that I will find a way, and it still hasn't happened. I would like to, but for painting, you need a room, you need space, and you need time. But I'm still thinking one day.
Maybe we will. I used to paint as well.
Maybe when I go to pension. Or but I really hated the art world. Can I say that? This is one of the reasons why I got so inspired by animation, is that, as a painter, you make some paintings, you have an exhibition, and everyone is so serious, and you have this artist talk, and they're like, so, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to change the world? And usually I would be like, yeah, I don't know, I just made these silly things, it doesn't mean anything. And everyone would be like, wow, what do you mean? And when I first went to an animation festival, everyone was like me, yeah, I don't know, I made it, I don't know why. And it was okay, like everybody was laughing, and I was like, nice, I feel like I belong here.
You already know, you go on festivals, animation world is much more relaxed, much more like people are more friendly, even though there is a little bit competition, but not as in live action
and
or as in...
there are so much less animation people than painters, because everyone's a painter. So good luck succeeding there.
Maybe in 10 years it will be opposite.
Yeah. Then
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and remember to drink with everybody. Yeah. This is how you get ahead in life, I'm serious. Yeah, let me put this legendary picture. Here I had actually even a trailer, but okay, it's too late now.
This one with Yoni.
Yeah. This is just like Tuesday on a festival. And yeah.
So you're staying for CINANIMA?
Yeah, until Sunday. Well, we actually stopped drinking. But I had a whole 10-year career of heavy drinking, so I think I can retire from the alcohol part. I'm still social, but when you're young and your liver is still, okay, then you should take advantage of that. That's my number one tip.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is this Yoni Manisto?
Yes, it's Yoni, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my favorite animation.
Did you ever see Yoni Manisto singing like Doors? Yeah.
You did?
I met him with a bigger beard, so I couldn't see, the proportions are different now.
Yeah, he likes to every now and then like completely change his look. Yeah.
Yep.
He's trying to hide, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Since we are like in a subject of drinking, like I don't drink. Will that be a problem?
Well, you know, I
Give
don't,
up.
I already don't drink for a few years, but then I smoke cannabis, you know. And then, so it's like I decided that alcohol is damaging me more than cannabis. So it's also okay.
I mean, like you don't need to drink. I think you just need to socialize.
No, you don't
yeah,
drink.
yeah.
No.
It's just like drinking is just a way of saying like socialize, you know. And for a lot of people, this makes things easier, but it's not a requirement. Yeah.
It's more like it helps you to stay longer, you know, because what we found out when we stopped drinking that it becomes boring very quickly.
And you know, sometimes actually the funnest thing happens when you hang with people who are drunk and you are not, because you will remember. Yeah. Like once I found myself in Japan in the airport festival, in a room with people who had been drinking all day, but they only had beer and I didn't drink beer, so I was sober. And then, you know, there was a moment when, I don't know if I can say this online, but who cares? Like, you're not supposed to open the windows because it's in the airport, the hotel, and but there were some people who were very annoyed with this rule, and they were like, all the time, like this fucking window, and then suddenly the window opened. And the hotel room was kind of like on the same level with the roof. And then everybody in the room was like, let's go out on the airport roof. And then one of the guys immediately got naked. I was like flashing to the airplanes in a distance. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not drunk. I really cherish this moment forever. Yeah. Nobody got killed or arrested, so that was also good. So should we throw ourselves out now?
Yeah, I think you have this jury lunch, no?
Yeah, I'm going to miss my lunch maybe, but...
So, any other questions about festivals or survival in the wild? How, as a wild animal, how can you survive?
And if anyone tells you that you cannot do this, don't believe them. You can do whatever. When I did my first film, I asked my friends, I mean, doesn't matter, but I was like, do you think I could make a film in 1 month and send it to festivals and get selected? And they were like, no way. You never studied. Why would they take your film? And doing it in 1 month. And then I went like, so it's a challenge, huh? I'll prove you wrong. So that's a good attitude to have, I think. Never believe when somebody says it's impossible. The closing thoughts. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.